on Wednesday, September 3rd. And this is the Special Elections Committee meeting, Election Special Committee meeting. So welcome to our guest, and welcome to everybody that is here. If you have a cell phone or other mobile device, if you'd like to mute that, please. And if you're able to stand, and we'll pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, we do have a quorum. Our committee consists of 7 members this year, and not actually members of the committee, but our staff advisor, Katie O'Grady, and our all-around person that keeps us on track, Karen Ripken, the Governing Board Executive Assistant. So welcome to you both. We do have a quorum. So, meeting procedures. I speak very slowly, very quietly. The Governing Board and its committees conduct all of their meetings in compliance with Arizona Planned Community Association open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804 and in concert with RCS-CW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules 2 and 3. This was adopted by the Governing Board on January 23rd, 2025. Okay. The first order of business would be to approve the minutes from the April 4th, 2025 meeting. Are there any corrections to that?
I move that we approve the meetings.
Okay. Second. Any objection? They will stand approved as written. Thank you. Karen. Actually, I can talk about microphones. They're really simple. If you want to speak, press the push button so that the green light is on. When you're not speaking, please have that off, otherwise we get echoes. Okay? Very simple. If you have any questions, ask. So, let's do the committee introductions first.
No telephones on the table, sorry. That's correct. We're good.
Actions, please.
All right, thank you. I'm the staff advisor, so Katie O'Grady, General Services Officer.
I'm Ron Capriati. It's my second year on this committee, and I've lived here in town for 6 years. I also host 2 shows on the local radio station, KSCW. Small plug.
I'm Steve Murray, second year on the committee, and been here 6 years.
Leslie Young, I was raised by a pack of wolves. I used to chase sports cars, and now I'm happy to catch a wheelchair. Been here 13 years and 4 years on this committee.
Thank you. Judy?
I'm Judy Thompson. This is my first year on the committee. I previously served on Charter Club Committee for a few years. I'm happy to be here.
Susan Sagahan. I've just joined the committee and happy to be here. I've been in the community as a homeowner for 20 years and lived here 15 years. So happy to be a part.
Merle?
I'm Merle Schwepke. My husband and I have lived
remote.
I'm Merle Schwepke. My husband and I have lived in Sun City West full-time since 2015, and I have served on the committee previously.
And Merle has agreed to serve as our secretary this year. Again, thank you. And she should be back for our next meeting. And I am Kathy Estes. I'm your chair this year. I have lived in Sun City West for 7 years. served on the Chartered Club Committee and on the Properties Committee, and I'm happy to be working with all of you on this committee this year. I anticipate that the elections will go very smoothly, so that's what we're going to work for. Okay, we have a committee roster handout that you have at your place. This is confidential information. Please do not share it. It has phone numbers and emails for the different committee members. Okay? Now, Karen, you're up.
Thank you. I'm here today to introduce the committee and any viewers in YouTube land to the new governance hub for the rec centers. This is the website that's replacing board docs, and it is significantly easier to navigate and use. Again, what was board docs and what is this governance hub, or just the hub as I'm already calling it? It's the repository for governance documents and governing board and committee meeting schedules, agendas, and minutes, as well as all of our bylaws and so forth. So I'm going to start by showing you all probably the easiest way to get to the governance hub would be to go to a totally separate website that you're most likely familiar with, and that's suncitywest.com. Sun City West website is the place where you can, again, access the hub by scrolling down to the governing board link, clicking on it, and all the board director pictures come up. You scroll to the bottom, and right here you'll see RCSC W Governance Hub. Again, it's formerly Board Docs. Board Docs is going away, so we are now subscribing to this hub, which is essentially created by the same company. A company, if you ever hear the word Diligent, that's their name, but we have customized it for us. So I'm clicking on that bottom button, and it takes us to the hub again, which is what you were looking at previously. Perhaps the most important part of this, other than pictures and so forth, is the schedule of meetings. And I have put in, as you can see right here to the right, there's a calendar of all of our meetings going forward this entire fiscal year. So for example, if you want to see what's going on January 9, you can see there'll be a workshop meeting on January 9. But what I want to draw your attention to is here we are in September, and I'm going to use tomorrow's properties meeting, September 4. You notice it's underlined and there's an orange square instead of a gray square. That means the agenda has been posted for the properties committee meeting tomorrow. You can click on it or any live agenda, and it brings you right to an agenda that looks much like the one for today's meeting. So again, you can scroll down and look at the agenda. You can open all the attachments, but of course during the meeting that's going to be done for you. There are different options here for looking at the video and looking at both the video and the agenda, but I'm just going to, again, in my cursory review today, point out that you can print the agenda or the agenda with all of its attachments that just flow right through by clicking on either the agenda or the agenda packet. So that's probably the most common question I get is, how do I print the agenda? So again, that's an example using the Properties Committee meeting. I'm going very methodical, so I'm going to click my home button and go back to the home page, which has the rotating pictures of the board and some of our buildings on it. And I'm going to scroll halfway down the page, just like reading a newspaper. For content, you always have to scroll down the page. Notice there's a governance library here. That's where you'll find bylaws and policies, the declarations. By clicking again on that underlined live link, there's a document and information center link here. That's how you can get information about the board, about committees, and other governance related documents. When the board changes bylaws or policies, they will be published in this part of the homepage called the Bylaw and Policy Revisions Review. There's also a link directly to the Sun City West website. Remember, the hub is a different site than the Sun City West website. They're separate. But what's very interesting about our new system is this little tile right here on the homepage called Subscribe to Meeting Notices. If you click on that, this is a new feature in the hub. We didn't have this in board docs. And again, scroll down for content. You can pick the different meetings of the board and the ones that you want to be apprised of. If you click Sports Path, or as I call Sports Pavilion, or Properties, or the whatever meetings, you can look at the whole list and put your email address. You can subscribe. And when I make the agenda live, then you will receive a notice in your inbox, in your email inbox. So it's kind of nice. It'll alert you as to when various board or committee meetings occur. So I just wanted to point that out. Other than that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time today. There is some information that's attached to the agenda on how to navigate. But again, I'm going to go to my home. Notice how I can go to that home underlined link or go to the box that says home. I'm going to go to the home page. And the last thing I'm going to show everybody is at the very bottom of this page is my name and my contact information. If you're struggling with the hub or don't know how to find something, simply contact me. So I hope this helps. I hope you enjoy this. The board's very excited about it, and I think you'll find it a much friendlier site than Board Docs was. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I had a chance to work in it just a little bit. It is awesome. Whoever designed it did a great job. So, all right, moving right along to 3.05, Special Committee Orientation. We are subject to Arizona open meeting laws, so I ask you to review bylaw 6.01, which basically talks about how we can communicate. We're a committee of 7, so 4 people is a quorum. If there are 4 of you, that constitutes an open meeting. So if you're talking amongst yourselves, 3 people or fewer, when I send out an email, I will send it BCC, so you can only reply to me and not to everybody. So it's just really important that we follow those rules, okay? We need to be open and transparent. So no decisions, no debates, no discussions via email. And committees, this one have no decision-making authority. We are a governing board committee. Any changes to the bylaws or the rules or the policies is up to the governing board and not us. We make recommendations to them. And they really do not interfere unless we're really screwing up badly. They will not interfere with our running of the election. Okay. I think I got that right. Okay. Also, policy C02 is the purpose of it is how our election committee runs, and I think it's really important for not only all of our residents, but especially our candidates to understand this. So policy C02, I'm going to read just the very first paragraph of it. The purpose is to establish how the election of directors of the governing board shall proceed. The governing board president, with the consent of the governing board, shall appoint the election committee chairperson at the same time as the standing committee chairpersons. The governing board president, with the consent of the governing board, shall appoint the other members of the election committee no later than September. The election committee shall be composed of not less than 5 owner members who are appointed by the president with the consent of the governing board. No member of the election committee shall be a member of the governing board, a candidate for the governing board, a member of a director's immediate family, or living in the same household as a director. No member of the election committee will show any favoritism to any candidate. The election committee shall oversee and administer the election process and supervise the voting. The election committee is a committee of the governing board. The chairperson shall keep the governing board president informed generally of the annual election process as it occurs and alert the president to any problems. No member of the election committee shall represent that committee in any fashion to the association's employees, another committee, or any news media without the expressed consent of the chairperson. There's more to that, the timetable, etc., but I think that right there is really important for us all to know and understand and follow, and for our residents and especially our candidates to understand. Okay. All right. Let's see, where are we here? So we're going to go to 4.01 and review the special committee's request to the governing board from last year. And you have a copy of that on your, in front of you here, you should have. It's this. I've got another copy of it. Actually, we can pull it up here too. So, I've got it. I'm sure I do. Right here. So, for those of you who were on the committee last year, I'd like your input, please, Merle. I think you had a couple of suggestions. I'm not sure if it was on this or on the petitioner's packet.
I had some suggestions just in terms of grammar typos. I think that was all, wasn't it, Kathy?
I believe that it was. I didn't see any major changes you had, but that was the petitioner's packet, I think, that we were talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the suggestions that the committee came up with last year for changes to the bylaws and policies. And most of it, as I go through it, most of it seems to be correcting terminology, kind of just clarifying a little bit. There are some things in there about mail-in ballots, which we do not do and haven't done, as far as I know, ever. And that really is something that the governing board should clean up. Okay? So we'll continue to ask them to work on these things. Katie, do you have some input?
Yeah, if that bylaw is just talking about elections in general, you might want to leave that in there, because if there is, say, a community-wide vote on parking or something and it didn't coincide with the March governing board election, you might want to leave that open to do mail-in voting. If it's not talking just about governing board elections.
Okay, so in that case, we would actually mail out ballots?
It just leaves the option open. So like, let's say if we wanted to change the CCNRs, you need to, it's a whole process of each individual unit, 50% plus one. That may be too cumbersome to do by email because you can't track the units. So there just may be different scenarios where you might want to leave the mail-in voting open as an option for other elections that the board might have to conduct.
Okay, would there be any way of specifying that that does not apply to election of governing board directors?
Sure. I mean, if you wanted to modify it that way, yeah.
Yeah, because that would be really difficult, I think, to try to do. Okay. So, there are, moving down to the bylaw 4.03, the election of candidates. There has been some confusion about elections and appointment of directors. So the election that we are responsible for is to elect 3 candidates to 3 open positions. There are 3 open positions every year because we elect a person for 3 years. There may be other positions open because of resignations, illness, whatever. But the elections are for those 3 open positions. If there is another position that is open, then the 4th highest vote getter takes that position. The wording of that seems to be a little bit confusing. Should be appointed, shall be appointed, will be appointed? Ideas? Anybody?
I like will, simply because it's clean.
Okay. Anybody else?
I agree with Leslie.
Okay, so person having the next highest vote numbers will fill the partial term after the full terms have been filled until the end of that upcoming year. It's only for that 1 year, and then someone else would have to run for that position. If an opening occurs after the election has been held, then it is up to the governing board to appoint someone to that position. It has actually nothing to do with the election. They don't have to take anybody that's a candidate that has been running. They can appoint whomever they feel would best fill that position for the next year. Okay? So to me, this is pretty clear to me that that is the policy. I don't know that there needs to be any clarification, but if the board thinks there needs to be, that will be up to them. But we're concerned with the election.
I think in our end, that's correct. How the board handles it in that instance is one thing, but versus what this committee is in existence to do has nothing to do with the incident at the governing board meeting where they had that one opening and they had to work around several different ideas on how to go ahead and fill that. That has nothing to do with us, so it's nothing we need to be concerned with in this committee.
I do think that perhaps the question was posed to the committee co-chairs last year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's a good thing we all have an understanding of it.
What Merle said was brought up to Luann and I, and so there was, I wouldn't say a lot of turbulence, but clarification was needed.
Okay. Policy L13, authorized use of association common areas. At our next meeting, we're going to have James Riley here, and he's going to talk about placement of signs, et cetera, according to the Arizona Planned Community rules and regulations, which we have to follow. Okay, so we'll get some more information on that next time. Okay. We are ready to look at the petitioner packet. So, there were a few things that I saw and had some input from Katie and some other members, just some clarification. So if we start at the very top, the Governing Board and Special Elections Committee encourages our owner members to consider running for a director position on our board, putting in their terms run for 3 years beginning July 1, and crossing out the beginning July 1 of next year. That makes it a little bit clearer. Okay? And then I didn't have any other changes or suggestions or clarification. Can you find it, Judy? Okay. Okay, so about 3/4 of the way down to the page, we're attending the RCSCW Torch. Some changes there. Attend the RCSCW Torch Academy, which details the complexities of running a large community such as ours, explains the difference between director and staff roles, and outlines how RCSCW falls under a planned community law, which is quite different from municipal regulations. Okay? We can add that in there. I think that's a good clarification. Okay? And then just in the next one, pick up a petitioner packet, not plural, at the office of the Governing Board Executive Assistant, Karen Ropkin, who is located in the Governing Board offices at R.H. Johnson Rec Center, not in member services. Okay? So, moving on to the next page, which is a direction to the petitioner. A clarification of an owner member. An owner member means being named on the property deed. We get some confusion about people who are associate members or tenants. They do not vote in our elections. Only owner members can vote. Okay. All right, down a few more lines. Interested owner members may pick up a petitioner packet from an election committee member or the Governing Board Executive Assistant. I think what we will plan on doing, and I think what we've done in the past, is having some of our committee sit outside Karen's office those first 3 days in November where they can pick up packets, and they will pick them up from us and we can talk to them and explain whatever we need to explain. After those 3 days, Karen says generally everybody comes those first 3 days. After that, then she will be able to hand out the packets, or they can call one of us, myself, or someone else who's designated, and we will make arrangements for them to get a packet from us. Okay? That will take some of the work off of Karen's, because she's got a lot to do. Okay, that next one, for more information, you can view videos. That whole thing goes away because the videos are not on the site. Yes, okay, yes. So Katie will get some information to us when the videos are up, and we can add that in here. Yeah, it should be. At the very beginning, thank you for your interest in the 2026 Governing Board Director election. Okay, so
Kathy,
yes,
above that, should it be the 25, 26 petitioner packet?
Yes.
right. And the line underneath that, it is actually the 2026 Governing Board Director election. But the packet is 25, 26, because they're picking it up in 25,
Right.
okay?
Uh-huh.
All right? So, to finish up that paragraph where we're taking out about the videos, it's Governing Board President Christine Novello is also available to speak with you. You can contact the Governing Board Executive Assistant. You may also contact the Election Committee Chair or Vice Chair if you have questions. Okay? Just a little bit of wording change to clarify things. Okay, okay, good so far. The next paragraph, at the very end of that first paragraph, we should make a note that tenants and associates may not sign petitions. It's owner members only. It's on the second page here. And down, let's see, you must submit original copies of your petitions to the governing board executive assistant, not located in member services, but at the governing board executive office. Okay. Other than that, there's a couple of plurals that were in there that I'll correct. And once we have this, corrected the way we want it, everybody will get a chance to look at it and really look for periods and commas and spelling and plurals and anything that comes up, okay? At the very end of that page, it says individual petition sheets may not be shared instead of between with any other circulator. Change it from between circulators to with any other circulator. That made more sense to me. And that's all I had on that. Okay, I know you didn't get any of this.
I did. Can I comment?
Yes, please. That's what you're here for.
Like, looking at this for the first time, sometimes things jump out. And I know this document's probably been a living document for a while, but I found that some things were rather repetitive. The same thing was said two or three times in the same way, which is a good thing, but is there a need for it to be repeated and repeated and repeated? And it's a question as being the newbie. There may be some history there.
Well, I think it depends on what it is. If you would like to maybe highlight those and get them to me, then I can send them out to everybody else. Because we'll come back to our next meeting. And
I
really-
would be happy to.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to our next meeting and finalize it. So I want you to be able to look at it before. The key dates that you have in your packet, there is a new one that Karen printed out that's got red stuff on it. Purple, yellow, that is the correct dates. If you don't have one, you can have mine because I've got another one, I think. Okay. So the dates are not written in stone, but it would be really difficult to change them because everything gets booked up. The lecture hall gets booked up, the governing board offices get booked up, the village meeting room gets booked up. So these are the dates that work with the rest of the schedule. Okay. In order to get the bios in the February Rec Center News, the photos need to be taken the first week of January. We'll have candidate training after that. And I anticipate generally people would not, they should not start campaigning until after candidate orientation. But we'll make that clear when they get packets and get validated. Okay, now, yes. Mm-hmm.
I just have a question. I mean, this is the first time I've read all of these things this thoroughly, and I noticed the word on the election guide, investor, was mentioned several times, and basically it's used synonymously with owner member. Does that have to be mentioned in any of this, or because there's two separate badges? So you're looking at a person and it says investor. Does everybody understand that that also means owner member and they can vote, just like everybody who is an owner member, or not? Because they have separate badges.
Kathy, can I reply to that? So the minute you buy a second property, you get designated as an investor, and your rec card number would go from 12345 to your second card would be 12345-01. You get a third property, it'd be -02. So you still have a primary card that doesn't have a dash on it, and that is your owner member card. But investors can vote, and they vote under their owner member number. They're on the deed of all of those properties. And so on the day of the training, in terms of people coming in to vote, yes, they can absolutely vote with their investor card. That's on the training materials we provide. And then with the early voting, they also would get one ballot emailed to them, and it would be weighted if they have 2 properties, twice, 3 properties, 3 times. So that's kind of the way it's set up. But it is understood. If it needs to be clarified in this, we can certainly do that.
Not many people go in depth reading what we've just read, so maybe it isn't necessary, but I just noticed that I had never heard that term before, and I didn't want it to be a problem for anybody else either.
Yeah, we can certainly, at your suggestion, Kathy, put language in there to clarify that if it needs to be.
Is there some language you think would clarify it a little better, Judy?
When you look at the eligibility to vote, owner member rec cards have a dark blue stripe with the word owner member or investor on it. An investor is an owner member who owns at least one home, obviously, which you just said. If you look at the election place and we're looking at people's badges, do we all understand that it could be an investor badge rather than, it's more for us probably than anybody else. I doubt anybody walking the streets is going to worry about it, but I don't know.
I agree. I don't think anybody walking in off the street that's not an investor would be concerned about it. The investors certainly should know that they have those multiple cards. Ron?
I was handling the walk-ins on election day in front of the library, and I did not see and I was there most of the day. I didn't see a single card or identification indicating investors. So there weren't that many walk-ups on them, and as long as it's explained to the investors what the rules are, and that if they own more than one properties, and they will have a weighted vote, then we can certainly be aware of it as a committee. Whoever's going to handle that, that spot that I handled last year, we're aware of that at this point. So I think now we'll know to look for it. But I appreciate you bringing that up, because I wouldn't have known that last year.
So, may I?
Yes.
For the people who are checking people in at the computers inside when they vote, we always ask every person if they own multiple properties. And then if they do, it's a little bit of a different process, and we refer them to Katie. So every person who comes in to vote is questioned by a committee member on the day of the in-person voting. And my finding was that investors, they know they have multiple votes. We just have to sort through them to know who to process with additional opportunities to vote.
Okay. So they get automatically funneled over to Katie to
Yes.
facilitate their voting.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and one other thing, I think we provide a card to whoever's working the door to show these are what the cards look like, and it should say investor on there, so.
Maybe it did, but I just didn't.
Okay, so the only area where I do see that it might need clarification is on the petitioner packets, because if someone's showing their investor card, they can sign a petition for that. So if the people collecting the petitions aren't aware of that, that might be some clarification. So it's a good point.
So what would we change on the petitioner packet? Instructions? Not the actual signature page.
Yeah, that's a bylaw addendum, would have to go through the board. So I think if we're going to do an overview and clean it up and remove some redundancies, maybe do it by section with headers, and it would be under there, I think.
Okay,
Makes sense.
all right, that makes sense. Okay, let's see, Katie has a couple of other things that she's handed out here that are fascinating, I think. The Arizona law update for flags and signs. Okay, this is blue. Effective September 26th. Basically 9 square feet, including a flag. If you happen to have flags.
So if I can, clarify, the major change there is categorizing political flags as signs. So previously, a political flag was not covered in this and you could fly it all year long. In some other communities, HOAs had very restrictive laws, which meant you couldn't fly a flag that wasn't the US or those ones that are designated at all. So in an effort to allow that in those HOAs, it sort of gave us a little more teeth to be able to say you can't leave this up all year long. So we'll follow the law. We weren't, behind drafting it or anything, but the legislature passed it for planned communities. So flags will be in that category. And then it's just a lot of layering of planned community law, our bylaws, state law, and federal law that creates this understanding of when they have to go up, when they have to come down, the differences between our local election for our governing board members and a state or federal one. So we tried to clarify it in these 2 different posters to make it simplified because it can get very, very complicated.
Okay. All right, thank you. And the other one, which I really like, is the sign regulations. Because it makes it really clear. And it will be interesting to have Riley here next time to talk about the signs in a little more depth. Okay? But this is really clear. Katie, thank you very much for doing that. That's really, I like that. I think this will be in our petitioner packet and certainly part of the candidate orientation. Signs are expensive. Okay, yes.
Hey, Katie, could you clarify, last year, at the very bottom of the sign regulation, the first bulletin, or bullet, we had an issue with people wearing T-shirts into their own clubs, and that got really,
Messy.
thank you. So here it says candidates who are club officers or directors may not wear that. If you're not a club officer or director, others can, correct?
Yeah, and a club officer who's supporting a candidate going in there, say, to make pottery, and they're not holding the meeting and hosting the meeting, it's fine. At that point, they're just a member of the club doing what the club does. They can wear whatever shirt they want, so long as it's not profane. If they, like I said, are having the meeting, or they're going to be speaking on an official capacity or something like that, then it would be biased and not allowed.
Okay, again, that's something we really need to clarify during the training.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, and it did come up last year in the polling place. So
Yes.
they can, you guys working in the polls cannot wear anything political, but a owner member that walks in to vote could wear something so long as it's not profane or derogatory.
We also have a number, at least a few organizations that aren't official charter clubs where candidate shirts were being worn, and there was an issue regarding that as well. Has that been nailed down in terms of what's right and what's wrong on that?
So it's the same thing as what we enforced last year. If it's a non-chartered club, but they're hosting something on our property, if those officers are acting in their official capacity on our property, that would be the issue. But if they're, over in Surprise having a banquet, they can wear it all day long. If they're here attending something and they're a member of the Joe Blow Club, they're just attending it, that's fine.
On the political flags and signs may only be placed on private property. I guess I'm not sure where in here is it specific that they cannot be put at private homes, or you can't put a flyer up in private homes?
They can put it on a private home. The difference is they can't put it on our property or our rights of way. So sidewalks and, the median areas near our property, they cannot put it there. But if they want to put it in their front yard, they can. If they want to put it in their front window, they can. If they want to raise a flag on their property, they can during that time frame.
If you're passing out flyers, you can leave them on homes now, on doors at homes. You don't have to knock on the door and make sure a person
Well,
takes
I don't
that
know
in.
if they can leave it that, but I do know we as a planned community cannot prevent someone from distributing it to personal homes. But I will have to check. I'll find out for you whether they can leave it.
That got brought up several times last year.
I think that might be a US Postal Service as much as anything. But
Yeah.
they could go door to door. I know that. We can't prevent that. But I don't know if they can leave something unattended. I will find out for
Yeah,
you.
so if they don't answer the door, can you leave it on the door?
Yeah,
Is
and
that-
these are all good questions for Riley. He's much more
Yeah,
into to that
okay,
portion
we'll
of
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All these little things that come up that it's hard to anticipate in advance, you know, what questions you're going to get. So, all right. Let me find my, I think that we are upcoming meeting topics. Did I lose my? So what we have coming up next time, obviously, is to review the petitioner packet and finalize that. After that will be the orientation packet. We'll need to be working on that and make sure that it is ready to go in January. And then once we have that finalized, the actual election packet. So we'll work it in that order. Anything else that comes up? So anything that you think about that we need to address, okay, please let me know. And we will put it on the agenda. Okay. So let's see here. Where am I? Okay, any committee comments? Anybody, please? Anybody? Okay. Rudy, you have anything to say? Anybody online? Okay. I love this kind of meeting. I just have one comment. Ron has agreed to serve as my vice chair this year, and I want to welcome every one of you. I look forward to working with you. And I appreciate all of you that have been on the committee before, your input, because your knowledge is really extremely valuable to move us forward and keep us from making mistakes that might have been made in the past. So I appreciate that. Okay, nothing else on the agenda. I will adjourn this meeting at 2:18. Thank you very much.